Long before cryptocurrencies, dot-coms, or subprime mortgages, there was a bubble that marked the first major speculative episode in financial history: Tulip Mania. It happened in the Netherlands in the 17th century and is widely regarded as the first documented market crash. But was it really as dramatic as it's often portrayed? What caused this fever over a flower? Today on Empires and Markets, we explore this fascinating story of greed, beauty, commerce, and collapse. At the beginning of the 17th century, the Netherlands was experiencing its golden age. It was an economic, naval, and cultural powerhouse. The Dutch East India Company dominated global trade, and Amsterdam was becoming Europe's financial hub. The society was bourgeois, educated, and commerce-driven, fertile ground for innovation and speculation. Religious freedom attracted Jewish bankers and merchants expelled from other countries. This, along with colonial expansion, created a dynamic and globalized economy. Financial products like bills of exchange and futures markets emerged, practices that would be seen again centuries later. The Dutch were also pioneers in the creation of stock exchanges and clearinghouses. Moreover, Dutch culture highly valued commerce, private property, and access to information. The printing press allowed rapid circulation of price lists for goods like tulip bulbs, and commercial pamphlets promoted the latest trends. This environment helped the tulip market spread rapidly. The Golden Age also saw a flourishing of Dutch art, with masters like Rembrandt and Vermeer. Scientific discoveries and innovations were at their peak, contributing to the intellectual climate. Agricultural advancements and efficient windmill technology boosted productivity. Urban planning and the construction of canals transformed cities, making them more navigable and prosperous. Guilds and craftsmen played a crucial role in maintaining high standards of production and trade. Education was highly valued, with universities and schools fostering a well-informed populace. Religious tolerance allowed for a diverse and vibrant society, contributing to the overall prosperity. Family life and social structures were stable, providing a strong foundation for economic activities. Literature and intellectual pursuits were encouraged, leading to a rich cultural heritage. Festivals and public celebrations were common, reflecting the prosperity and joy of the era. Tulips arrived from the Ottoman Empire and quickly became an exotic and prestigious flower. Their perfect shape and vibrant colors made them unique in Europe. Some rare specimens with stripes and patterns caused by a virus became highly coveted by nobles and merchants. They were seen as a safe investment, a symbol of wealth, and an elite fashion trend. Gardens filled with tulips became a status symbol. Bulb catalogs circulated like art pieces, and an entire industry developed around the cultivation, transportation, and classification of tulip varieties. Exhibitions, awards, and gardener associations flourished. The tulip came to represent more than just a flower. It was a sign of refinement, artistic taste, and economic success. The rarest bulbs even had their own names, like masterpieces. All of this turned the flower into not just a commodity, but an object of speculation. Tulip motifs even influenced fashion and jewelry, further embedding the flower into the cultural fabric of the time. Festivals and parades celebrated the tulip, showcasing its importance in society. Literature and historical documents from the era highlight the tulip's impact on trade and culture. Even architecture was influenced, with tulip motifs adorning buildings and public spaces. The tulip's influence extended to currency and economic symbols, cementing its role in the economy. Tulip-themed memorabilia became popular, further showcasing the flower's cultural significance. Household items and ceramics often featured tulip designs, making the flower a part of everyday life. Textiles and clothing also embraced tulip patterns, reflecting the flower's widespread appeal. Artists were inspired by tulips, creating paintings and artworks that celebrated their beauty. Sculptures and public art installations also featured tulip designs, further embedding the flower in the cultural landscape. Public parks and gardens often showcased tulip displays, making them accessible to everyone. Souvenirs and merchandise featuring tulips became popular, allowing people to take a piece of the tulip craze home with them. Businesses used tulip branding in their products and advertisements, capitalizing on the flower's popularity. Social gatherings and events often had tulip themes, reflecting the flower's integration into social life. Tulip motifs even influenced fashion and jewelry, further embedding the flower into the cultural fabric of the time. Festivals and parades celebrated the tulip, showcasing its importance in society. Literature and historical documents from the era highlight the tulip's impact on trade and culture. Even architecture was influenced, with tulip motifs adorning buildings and public spaces. The tulip's influence extended to currency and economic symbols, cementing its role in the economy. Tulip-themed memorabilia became popular, further showcasing the flower's cultural significance. Household items and ceramics often featured tulip designs, making the flower a part of everyday life. Textiles and clothing also embraced tulip patterns, reflecting the flower's widespread appeal. Artists were inspired by tulips, creating paintings and artworks that celebrated their beauty. Sculptors and public art installations also featured tulip designs, further embedding the flower in the cultural landscape. Public parks and gardens often showcased tulip displays, making them accessible to everyone. Souvenirs and merchandise featuring tulips became popular, allowing people to take a piece of the tulip craze home with them. Businesses used tulip branding in their products and advertisements, capitalizing on the flower's popularity. Social gatherings and events often had tulip themes, reflecting the flower's integration into social life. Tulip trading began informally but soon evolved into organized markets held in taverns and auction houses. Bulbs were not exchanged physically but through futures contracts. This enabled speculation. People traded the right to buy bulbs in the future, even if the flowers never bloomed. Some rare varieties, like the Semper Augustus, reached prices equivalent to a house in central Amsterdam. There were stories of people selling everything they owned to invest in bulbs. Contracts changed hands multiple times before the flower even emerged. The system became a cycle of pure speculation. Brokers emerged, deals were made on paper, and prices were discussed in cafes and marketplaces. It was a parallel economy built almost entirely on trust and the narrative of infinite growth. The frenzy was fueled by tales of quick riches, often exaggerated or fabricated. Paintings and stories from the era depict the madness that gripped the nation. Merchants and common folk alike were drawn into the speculative bubble. The trade extended beyond Dutch borders, influencing markets in other parts of Europe. Financial records from the time show the staggering amounts of money involved. Tulip cultivation itself became a lucrative business, with gardens dedicated to growing the most prized bulbs. Families were torn apart by the financial strain, as fortunes were made and lost overnight. The eventual collapse left many in ruin, marking one of the first major economic bubbles in history. During 1636 and early 1637, tulip prices skyrocketed in an unstoppable spiral. Middle-class incomes were rising, and many wanted to participate in what seemed like a new path to wealth. Tulips were discussed in the streets, markets, and gatherings. It became a national conversation. Bulb contracts were traded like stocks. Some people entered the market just to resell the next day. Primitive forms of leverage appeared. Low down payments were offered with the promise to complete the amount upon delivery. It was a house of cards based on the belief that a buyer willing to pay more would always be there. Taverns became economic meeting points where deals were made and price fluctuations debated. It was an informal, unregulated market but deeply widespread. The profits, or promised profits, enticed even inexperienced people to join, driven by the fear of missing out. Tulip Mania infiltrated daily life, with families discussing their investments at home. Newspapers reported on tulip prices, further fueling the frenzy. Even artists were inspired, creating works that celebrated the beauty and value of tulips. Banks began to get involved, offering loans to those looking to invest in tulips. Tulip bulbs were transported across the country, and even internationally, to meet the growing demand. Tulip gardens became a symbol of status and wealth, with families proudly displaying their collections. Merchants saw an opportunity to profit, negotiating deals and setting prices. The entire Dutch economy seemed to revolve around tulips, with prices reaching unprecedented heights. Celebrations were held for successful sales, with people reveling in their newfound wealth. However, some began to question the sustainability of such high prices, warning of a potential collapse. Financial advisors were sought after as people tried to navigate the volatile market. Speculation was rampant, with many taking significant risks in hopes of striking it rich. The entire Dutch economy seemed to revolve around tulips, with prices reaching unprecedented heights. Celebrations were held for successful sales, with people reveling in their newfound wealth. However, some began to question the sustainability of such high prices, warning of a potential collapse. Financial advisors were sought after as people tried to navigate the volatile market. Speculation was rampant, with many taking significant risks in hopes of striking it rich. In February 1637, during an auction in Haarlem, no one was willing to bid. That was the signal that burst the bubble. Panic spread as fast as the prices had once soared. People who had invested their life savings in tulip bulbs were now facing financial ruin. In just days, the market collapsed. The once booming tulip trade was now in shambles. No one wanted to buy, and the signed contracts became worthless paper. Lawsuits multiplied as people tried to recover their losses. Courts refused to intervene because many contracts were considered more like bets than legal agreements. The legal system was overwhelmed. The informal economy collapsed, and although the banking system survived, thousands lost their savings, reputations, or financial stability. The impact was widespread. Some tried to return the bulbs at original prices, while others simply vanished with previous profits. The market was in chaos. The collapse left a social scar of distrust that affected other markets for years. People were wary of investing in speculative ventures. It was a short-lived event but deeply symbolic of how enthusiasm can turn into ruin. The lessons of Tulip Mania would be remembered for generations. Historians would later document this period as a cautionary tale of speculative bubbles and the dangers of unchecked market enthusiasm. The story of Tulip Mania serves as a reminder that financial markets are susceptible to human emotions and irrational behavior, a lesson still relevant today. Despite the initial panic, the Dutch economy did not collapse. Its foundation was strong and diversified. However, the speculative fever left cultural scars. Satirical pamphlets, plays, and essays mocked the collective madness. Debates arose about the morality of speculative trading. For decades, tulips lost their appeal as investment assets. The story became a warning for future generations. Some historians debate whether it was truly a bubble like modern ones, but no one denies its symbolic power in reflecting mass human behavior. It was a mirror of greed, belonging, and fear of being left out. This episode also served as an early reference for economists and social psychologists. It showed how collective expectations and social pressure can drive irrational decisions. The parallels with modern phenomena like Bitcoin, meme stocks, or NFTs are as clear as they are unsettling. The aftermath of Tulip Mania was a complex blend of economic resilience and cultural introspection. It influenced art, literature, and philosophical debates for years to come. The lessons learned were passed down through generations, shaping future economic thought. Today, Tulip Mania remains a pivotal case study in economic history. It serves as a reminder of the dangers of speculative bubbles and the importance of economic stability. Tulip Mania wasn't just a story about overpriced flowers. It was a window into the speculative mechanisms that still exist today. From cryptocurrencies to real estate, the patterns repeat. On Empires and Markets, we explore the past to understand the present. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoy economic history told as a story, subscribe and share this video. We'll keep uncovering the cases that shaped and continue to shape the financial world. Join us next time for another deep dive into the fascinating world of economic history. Until then, keep questioning and exploring the world around you.